Your Culture, the podcast where we dive deep into the heart of leadership and organizational culture. I'm Ryan McCarty.
And I'm George Rogers. Together, we're here to guide you on a journey of personal and professional growth. Every week, we bring you insights, stories, and strategies to help you and your company thrive in today's dynamic world.
So whether you're leading a team, running a business, or just eager to make a positive impact, you are in the right place. Let's jump right into today's show and champion a culture of purpose and passion. Welcome to Champion Your Culture. And it's another Monday.
Another day in paradise.
Is it?
Just another day in paradise.
Is
That's
that
the song of the day there?
Oh, I was thinking, what's the song by Guns N' Roses?
Ooh.
Take me down to the paradise city where the grass is green and the girls are pretty. Oh, won't you please? I'm sorry, I better chill.
Man, I will say this.
I can't hit it, man.
I will say this. You have a voice of an angel.
Oh, yeah. What kind of angel?
Yeah, a dead one.
The one that was kicked out of heaven?
Didn't make the cut, man. Didn't make the cut.
Not all the angels made it,
You
brother.
were the person in the choir that was in the back corner.
Oh, yeah.
But I always want to be right by the mic.
Oh, no, I had a mic. They just didn't have
Have the dead mic.
Yeah.
Man, and we used to do that at our church too. There were
Give
certain people
somebody a dead mic.
certain people just had dead mics. And then it was only in their ear. Like the greatest invention for most churches was when they started doing in-ear monitors versus having their
That
own
way
monitor.
people could hear themselves, but nobody else could hear them.
Yeah, because they want to do the extra, extra solo. And when we grow up, the deacons they didn't have all the lyrics.
No.
And I thought it was just good humming and that.
No, they just forgot
That's a good reflection of our past.
Yeah.
Everybody that's watching, listen, this is what you get when you get riding out together. You just never know how it's going to start. But as always, we want to thank you. We want to let you know we appreciate you for joining us here today on Champion Your Culture, the podcast, powered by Culture of Good. And we're grateful that everybody is here.
Yeah, I think we're losing some video here and there. So just stay with us. We're going to stay with you. But yeah, thank you for jumping on with us and experiencing what we do every single week with this culture talk. I mean, leadership is really what we're about, So it's good to see so many people that are gaining so much out of these conversations. I sometimes I wonder how far these conversations go. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times when we're talking about leading with heart, with empathy, with care. It's but also understanding that we want to have results. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of an interesting conversation around like hard skills and soft skills and where they interact and where they work together to make a workplace that we all want to be a part of. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, that's the key. The togetherness of everything.
Yeah.
Nobody's, and I always say this to people, a lot of people like to be by themselves, and I'm that type of person. There's certain periods of the day where I need alone time, and that's warranted. But as far as working and doing life at a high level, you need that unity and that togetherness and that camaraderie and connection that feeds that power, that energy that you have. And so it's always great. We just happen to be two grown men that talk about it in we're grown. And as far as our height goes, we tapped out at our height. I'm not going to get past
I tapped
6'2".
out when I was 12, man.
Yeah.
I've been this tall since I was 12. When I was born, I was 23 inches long. Yeah. I was 2 foot. I was 2 foot tall when I was born. Literally, my sister thought my mom brought a toddler home from the hospital.
You were like that Cosby episode where they were the guys were going through their little section and they were delivering those subs. It was like a 12-foot sub.
Yeah. I was born with a mustache. That's all I'm saying. I was 2 foot tall, and it's taken me the rest of my life to grow damn near another 4 foot. I haven't been able to, but I'm just saying, like, we've completely tapped it. I know I have.
But there's growth in other areas, and maturity. At some point, one of those days. The way to our heart. There's a couple of ways, and one is definitely food.
Yeah, for sure.
Specifically desserts.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
desserts, man.
What's your favorite?
Ooh, my favorite is what I'm craving right now, and that's banana pudding.
All right.
But I love any and all things chocolate,
Qatar, my
except
cousin
cheesecake.
Yolanda can make some great banana pudding,
Really?
man. Yep, every Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yep. Down in
What's
Louisville.
your favorite dessert? Chat, while we're talking about this, what is your favorite dessert? If you're with us live in the conversation, I'm checking it right now. Throw in your favorite dessert, and I'm
thinking
interested.
I'm definitely mine is going to be a toss up between a really moist, soft carrot cake
Okay.
and some type of like chocolate volcano cake.
Okay.
Just chocolate.
Yeah, just chocolate and chocolate.
Just chocolate.
You know what I've never heard anybody say?
As their favorite?
Yeah.
A
dry cake.
Pie?
No,
dry cake.
You said moist. And
yeah. I mean, when you describe cake though, because there's a lot of times you get that dry cake, and it's
who does not like a moist, soft cake? Who likes a dry?
Well, the reason we say that is somebody out there it's probably. Just like it's an obvious.
Yeah,
moist cake is important. Yeah. But when I was growing up, we this is something weird that my family did. Talk about culture. My dad raised me to pour milk over my cake. So if I got birthday cake or anything, we poured milk over. I still do it to the day. In my ice cream too. If I have ice cream at home, I'll put ice cream in a bowl and I'll pour milk over it.
Yeah, there's a comment I want to say, but it's not HR approved.
It's not HR.
But I'll just say this:
it's not HR approved.
I don't know anybody in my family, non-adopted family, that did stuff like that. But in my adopted family area, specifically your people, I've heard that before. You know what else I learned? I moved to Angola. Now I will say I had a deacon at my church, Cornerstone of Hope, when I was there 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
That did this as well. But I learned this coffee toasting. You know where I'm going with this?
I don't know.
So
dip your toast in your coffee.
But before that, they would do like over easy or over medium, where the yolk is still a little runny. They'll take a piece of the toast, they'll dip it in the egg and eat it, and then they take the other part once the egg is cleared up. The
dip that in the coffee.
They dip the rest of the toast in the coffee.
Yeah, and then it's all just like
it's weird because I don't like floaties, so I could never I wanted to try it. So all I would do is I would just eat a piece of toast and take a sip of coffee.
Yeah,
that seems like the same thing to me.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I don't mind doing that, but honestly, like my dad will pour milk over warm like pie.
Okay.
Like apple pie and stuff. He'll pour milk right over it.
Interesting.
Well, if you think about it, if it's sweet and it's got that creaminess to it, it's like ice cream in a sense. Like it just makes the cake like for real.
So the milk is definitely real ice cold.
Oh, on the ice cream, sometimes it flakes the ice cream into like ice flakes on top of it. It's pretty, Anyway, so I don't know.
I'm sure
everybody's got some weird ass stories.
Yeah, everybody's got a weird, unique family thing that's like they do as a family.
I don't know if we want to know all of it.
Specifically food.
Don't share. Yeah. Don't share your weird family secrets.
That'll be interesting. Chat. Yeah. That'll be interesting. So whenever we have a random topic, I always throw it back at you.
Yeah.
And ask you to relate it to whatever conversation we're having.
Okay.
Today.
Sure.
So I'll say this: pouring milk over cake is like.
In terms of our conversation today?
Well, let's just keep it HR related. Anything under the roof of HR. It can be talent acquisition, recruiting. It can be culture, leadership. It can be workplace belonging, DEI. It can be terminations. It could be whatever strategy you want it to be. What would you align pouring milk over cake in the workplace? This is a good conversation.
Yeah. Maybe just a list of things you shouldn't do.
Touche.
Pouring milk over cake as it relates to culture and leadership. I suppose it's a metaphor, not so much as talking about how we come to our own behaviors on our own.
Yeah.
Because I would have never just randomly poured milk over cake. But the reason that I pour milk over cake is because I saw my dad do it.
Yeah.
So the idea of leadership is a lot of behavior is learned behavior. And
Mhm.
so when we have a culture within our business where people aren't trusting each other, when they're critical of leadership, when the behaviors we see in the workplace are not reflected to the heart of what we want, it's because those are learned behaviors. And we learn behavior based on being rewarded for what we do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think it's really, that's a long shot for me, but pouring milk over the cake is like how learned behavior works within a workplace. It's like we see the observable behaviors in a workplace, and we know from that, we know what's being exemplified by the leadership.
Yeah. That's good, man. I appreciate you reaching out and doing that for me.
It was a stretch, but I was working on it, man.
Yeah. So we want to talk today, and I kind of want to change up this.
Mhm.
Typical, we just have a good conversation, but I want to ask you a series of questions.
Okay.
And today's podcast, if you're listening to us, I want to give you guys and ladies some really good tips, but I also want to really just highlight, we had a great experience last week. For those of you who didn't know, we had our second quarter of the year with some great organizations, some great people, very successful. And there are some, not necessarily challenges, but there were some interesting placeholders, as I call them, where I went back the next day and really just kind of jotted down some notes after listening,
Mhm.
going back through it, because we had organizations that were doing good, right? Had great strategies. Leadership is pretty good for the most part, how they felt
Mhm.
on examining their place of work. We had organizations that there was represented employees that were representing to be certified champions, but they were already had culture good in their workplace.
Yeah, this was
And
an interesting
it was a
cohort.
very great dynamic. And what I took from that was a lot of the feedback that we've been getting a lot from all our clients is, when they ask what we do and how does this really, what's the impact that it has?
Yeah.
What's the impact of paying all this money to get certified? There's all these questions, and I've done nothing but think and really celebrated, our success. And I'm tooting our horn here, rightfully so, but the success of what has become a repeated outcome in our storytelling,
Mhm.
and that is the R word.
Yeah.
Right, retention
Yeah.
has become, and so we talked about this a little bit in the last podcast where we gave a shout
The
out.
other R word,
And what is that?
ROI.
Yes.
Return.
Yep.
Retention equals return
Mm-hmm.
on investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
so
anyway,
that was
yeah.
one of the impacts. And so I thought it was like, man, how can we discuss this in our podcast today? And I wanted to share a little bit because I think there's a breakdown on what we're seeing, and there's things that we see that's consistent with a lot of our clients.
Yeah. First, I
telling
want
their story.
You bring up the cohort. So for those that aren't aware, what we do at Culture of Good is we help to champion those who champion people and champion culture.
Yeah.
So we have a 2-day certification that takes place every few months. We have one that's going to be coming up June 25th and 26th. Is that right?
Yeah.
So mark that on your calendars. June 25th and 26th. We haven't even put that on the website or anything yet, but so that's news for everybody joining us live here. So seats are limited, but it's a 2-day certification. We go through conversations around what culture is, what culture of good is, what does it mean to build a culture of good in your organization, identifying a project that helps you to design a plan for that as you're going back into the workplace after the 2 days. You don't just learn about all these concepts, but you have a plan to follow and to implement. One of the things that we hear over and over again is it's the challenge in culture in these types of efforts is all in the implementation. What's the plan, right? What's the strategy? What's the structure that we can follow so that everybody knows what they're engaging with?
Right.
We're wanting to create this environment where people feel a sense of purpose and meaning behind what they do every single day. And, so what we're hearing over and over and over again is retention.
Yeah.
We heard it early on when I launched Culture of Good in the infancy stages 11 years ago with Scott in his company, TCC. Shout out to everybody from the Cellular Connection across the country. Because if it wasn't for those employees capturing the heart of what we were trying to do, it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
But what we found is that 93% of employees stated that culture of good gave them a sense of fulfillment in their everyday work. And it led to the result of that. This is where the money's at. It led to a 20% reduction in turnover. So what does that mean within an organization? Because as we've been doing this work, it's gone even further than that. And as you know, we'll highlight two companies that were at this last cohort because they're both in manufacturing. One is Wiley Metal out of Marion, Indiana. We bring them up quite often on the podcast. And then a new company that we were introduced to in this cohort with Cassie from Big Ass Fans. Many of you are familiar with Big Ass Fans. They make the big ass fans that you see in like gyms and factories, and they also make small fans as well. But those two companies were present, and what we found out about Wiley Metal is they had Mike Wiley, one of the executives, had come a year and a half ago to one of our cohorts and began implementing a culture of good through his business. And I've been coaching him every other week throughout that time as well. But after the 2-day certification, that cohort, he went back and started implementing culture of good, and their turnover has gone down from 230% to 17%. And possibly even lower than that. Now, is that going to go up? Things are going to fluctuate, right? It may not always stay at 17%. But what we do know is when we have a strategy, a culture strategy that we can follow and other people can follow as well, then we're all heading in the same direction. But most people just don't have a culture plan. They don't have a map. They don't know really where they're going or why they're going there in the first place. And so we help organizations discover their why. Why are we heading in this direction? What are the outcomes that we want to experience as an organization, as a team, and as individuals? And then how are we going to get there? And that strategy and the structure of a culture of good helps companies get there. And that's something that we hear over and over and over again. But it was fascinating because this 2-day was really a unique opportunity within those particular two companies, Wiley Metal and Big Ass Fans, to sit in the same room together and learn how to build a culture of good in their organization within their industries, particularly manufacturing, and seeing that the impact of what culture can have specifically on industries that don't have a history or a track record of being like culture forward. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody thinks of manufacturing like, well, that's where we go to learn about culture. But so it really is a business differentiator.
And I think the impact specifically, and we're hearing, and I can't wait to follow up with Cassie in the next 3 to 6 months and see the impact that it does there. But we get the opportunity as well because of the impact in that one company. You know, we're seeing other manufacturing companies within Marion, Indiana, specifically come together. I think he said he has 35 plus people already, businesses that are going to be representing
in April, coming together throughout. So if you're in the Marion area or Grant County and you listen to this podcast, we'll be in Marion. Let's see, it'll be April 11th. April 11th. So reach out to us. We'd love to have you join us. We're going to have a breakfast there. And particularly if you're in the manufacturing space in near Grant County, we would certainly love to have you because we have, I think there's over 10 companies represented throughout Grant County or just particularly Marion that are going to be there because of the impact that this has. You know, when you have a people-centric culture, you can have a company in an organization that is profitable and still people-centric. You don't have to sacrifice people for profit. You know what I'm saying? You really don't. And I think that's what we're preaching And that's what we try to help champions to champion within their organization. Because earlier on within the culture of good, we would help the company by going in ourselves,
Mhm.
which we can still do. And we can do workshops, but it does something for a company where we can then empower them and empower their
Yeah.
leadership to lead
The
the
day to
culture.
day.
The day to day is
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
culture's
The
at, not
connection.
when we come in.
Yeah.
I mean, we can come in and give like a pep rally,
Yeah.
but you know what pep rallies are?
Yeah. They're just they're sugaring your coffee. And
Yeah, I
eventually,
mean, every school has a pep rally,
Yeah.
but when it comes to the game, then you're out on the field.
Yeah.
We're not the ones out on the field, you are. And
Yeah.
so what we want to do is we want to equip those that are leading culture. I mean, I don't know how many over the last 5 years, how many more people I've met that were hired as head of people and culture.
Yeah. That's the thing now.
If you were hired in the last 5 years to be the head of people and culture, and you still don't have a solid plan to follow in terms of how you're engaging your employees, your customers, your community, how you're driving purpose-driven work,
Yeah.
how you're engaging teams in ways that are empowering them to not only reach out to the community but also drive results within the business. That, like the 2-day certification on June 25th, it sounds like this is an entire commercial for that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what this is for. That's why we do that.
Yeah.
So I would encourage anyone to jump into that, because what we do that's unique within culture of good, and I think this is important to bring up, is we don't just have this prescription that we say, do it this way,
Yeah.
do it our way, and it's a one size fits all. No, we have an architecture or a framework that we provide, and then we say, do it your way.
Right. Because
And-
every company's different. And I think we saw
talk
that
about that.
dynamic even with manufacturing companies that we had in this cohort, the two there, they're different, and every company's at a different place. Right.
Mhm.
We're all different people culturally, even towns, town next door may be a lot different than the next town over. And so how you're interacting and understanding, we talk about the language and understanding your language, talking about understanding, what moves a person, how people and your employees like to be recognized, like understanding all those dynamics are totally different. And so every organization's culture is different.
Yeah.
Every organization's culture can still do good, but that good may look different, right?
Yeah.
According to the needs, one of your customers, your passions, right? Your community, and then
Yeah.
also your team, right?
Yeah.
We may have different dynamics. So as we're trying to do good together, it's collectively what moves us. Well, we may have a need specifically in our community that's different than Lexington, Kentucky, where Big Ass Fans is, right? And so understanding and make sure that's important.
Knowing your people.
And knowing your people and what moves them.
Yeah.
When we talk about recognition, when we talk about rewards, when we talk about engagement and fulfillment, it goes back to the root and the heartbeat of your people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's why we do those stakeholder profile.
Yeah.
Like we have the charting within.
Mhm.
So that's another thing, is like you have to get tactical.
Right.
Like this stuff has to work. We can't preach something that makes sense, but it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
We're trying to do something that's making a difference.
Yeah.
Like we're not waking up every day, you and I, like leaving the life that we had before to go into culture work and leadership work in order to just like make some money and make a point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like this stuff has to work.
Yeah.
And so we get tactical with that. Like it's structured in such a way that it can be operationalized within an organization.
Mm-hmm.
This is what the concept of bringing your soul to work, or operationalizing the soul of a nonprofit within your for-profit business.
Yeah.
But it has to be operationalized. It can't just be like, you don't realize something just by a hope and a dream, or just because you got inspired by a keynote speaker on LinkedIn or at a conference. Like there's all kinds of that out there. There's all kinds of, and we do keynotes and we have workshops, but at the end of the day, the stuff that we're talking about, it works.
Yeah.
And it's proven. And that tactic, the tactics behind how this works is really important. And because when we get tactical, it allows us to be able to empower people around us to actively contribute toward what we're doing.
Yeah.
When we're just like talking about some vision of what we want the future to look like, everybody's still,
Yeah.
that's just a dream.
Yeah. So if we can, I want to, when I left last week,
Yeah.
and the reason why I want to talk about this today, not just because of the retention, but what drives that success, right? What is driving outside of the strategies, the outline? They get a playbook, a workbook to go back and apply, specifically designed for their company as individuals, as it relates. But there was, as I went back over and I thought, and I'm just, this is how our brains work. So you'll be able to relate a little bit. For the audience, there's two ways that Ryan and I work: acronyms and then objects. We're storytellers. And so there's illustrations, right? And so when I went back, and obviously the kickoff of March Madness Thursday kind of really triggered this. And I thought at the end of every championship, NFL, Super Bowl, NBA Finals, MLB, World Series, right? The hockey Stanley Cup. At the end of all these finals, and there's a champion declared, there's still another champion that's declared from that team. We call it the MVP. And so it triggered in my mind that what is the MVP of this retention success? What's the MVP of culture of good? And this is just Georgism, right? And I believe it relates and it aligns with what we do here as Culture of Good and what we preach on this podcast. And so I want to just kind of break down the MVP. These words is what I found in conversations with Tim, Todd, Cassie, Tom, Mike, right? All the people that are in our cohort. These words really these three words and this acronym really stuck out a lot. And they talked about it, whether it's individually, whether it was within our workshops. And the first one is meaning, which, I'm thinking of. So for M, meaning, you want to have we'll give you 3 successful retention factors on bringing a culture good within your workplace. And the first one is meaning. And I want you to kind of describe that alignment, because when I think about it, for me, it's that sense of fulfillment, right? I have meaning as an individual for the work that I do. So I come to work because I have it more than just engagement, more than just the work that I do. I'm being fulfilled by something that's connected to a greater cause. And so it's really that infusion. If I was to describe it, it's that infusion at the workplace where leaders can really give that alignment to what we call purposeful work, right? Purposeful good. When you hear that, and when I see that, as you were talking in one of the workshops, and it started clicking, because it takes a while. At first it's like, okay, what is this? The expectation, what am I getting myself into? Then it's like poof, overwhelmed, and then it clicks. I understand the meaning behind this, but also understand what it means to have meaningful work.
Well, think about
in the
that,
place.
even the word itself. What's the meaning?
That's
what it is, right? Like when you said it as you were kind of throwing it back over to me, is like, what's the meaning behind this work? That's the question. When we talk about meaning, that's what we're saying. If I were to define it, I would say it's purpose that makes me feel good, but it also gives me a sense of understanding of not only what I do every day, but why I do it. And so, when we think about meaning, several years ago, just this idea came to mind for me that every day we wake up, I believe that most people that I've met, whether consciously or subconsciously, we wake up with this desire to discover meaning behind what we do in terms of our work, meaning in relationships. A lot of times when we lose a sense of connection with people that we had connection with before, we've lost a sense of meaning, is what it is. It's not that person is bad or that I'm bad or the relationship is bad. It could just be that we need to find a new sense of meaning together. I found this with Katara when, went through the empty nester syndrome. You know, it was like our entire lives, our meaning was the kids. That was our meaning. That was the meaning behind life. We woke
Yeah.
up, it was kids. We, you know, we drove, you know, the car, the kind of car you buy is because how many kids you have.
Yeah.
Everything is kids. That's the
Yeah.
meaning of your life. But when the kids moved out, we ended up in therapy together and looking at each other like we need to find meaning again because we lost that sense of meaning. And I think people can have a sense of meaning in their work early on when you first get hired. Sometimes the sense of meaning is just having a new job, and that's your sense of meaning. But when you're in a workplace long term, having a sense of meaning takes on a deeper understanding. And that could be like, what is my purpose here?
Mm-hmm.
How is my contribution and what I'm bringing to the table meaningful?
Yeah.
Not just is this job meaningful to me, but is my work meaningful to others?
Yeah.
And that's the growth, I think. And I think many times we get stuck into this concept, and we're talking about retention and helping people like grow retention, but let's talk to just everybody here. Like part of maturity and growth is going from this everything needs to give me a sense of meaning
Mm-hmm.
to I'm coming to work to help others find theirs. I'm going to contribute in ways that I find meaning in helping others. And then my retention's different because it's not about everybody making sure I'm happy every day.
Right.
But my retention's going to be different because I find a sense of purpose even when I don't love everything going on.
Yeah.
I stick around because I know that there's a greater sense of meaning here. And I think that, you know, can go both ways, but I think meaning is if we're going to have MVPs in the workplace, they're those that have that sense of meaning in what they do.
Yeah. The other one was value.
Yeah.
And this we talk about values not in the sense of core values, but how champions are valued, right? When an MVP of a basketball game scores 28, gets 12 rebounds and 6, you know, there's a reward at the end. They become that valuable,
they get
most valuable player, right? They're that value. And I think about this, and we talk about the appreciation, the rewards, aspects of those contributions that happens. And I want to share this. You don't even know this. I had a conversation just this morning to another company. Zealandia, Latour Group. So I talked to Terry this morning and sharing this wonderful news of a lot of the changes that they've had. And our good friends Mike and Rob with East Coast Golf.
Yeah.
They're dominating right now. Nothing but praise. So shout out to their team. I believe Chris and AJ out there on their team as well. But obviously, and this is, I mean, springtime hasn't even started, so they're not even to where they're going to be this spring, this summer. But talking about the growth there, right? And one of the things, now I'll say this: if I work at a golf course in South Carolina or any golf course with these guys, like my reward is that I get to touch the greens all the time. Like there's a lot of recognition there. I will be the most valuable putter. But part of that retention is also on their aspect is not just retention, and it's rewards and recognition and what is done for them on also new hires. They're growing like never before, right? And their businesses. So shout out to Scott and the team there and Terry as well at the whole Zealandia holding company. But we're seeing those dynamics where we talk about retention, but the other side of that is they're keeping so many of their good people. I also want to be a part of that company too, and that growth, because they're valuing those who have value.
Right. So you're hiring different people.
Yeah.
When you start retaining people, good people, not, you know, you don't want to retain everybody.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? The difference. I mean, you don't want to lose great people.
Yeah.
Because, well, what does that do? That only makes me want to work for you. That also does something to me. If on my team, I don't have to keep changing players all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at across the board in athletics, you don't want a team where the team never gets to gel and never has a flow because you're constantly changing players throughout the season.
Yeah.
If you're having turnover, it's frustrating to the team members. when every 3 weeks there's somebody new that needs to be trained on shit that they learned 2 years ago, and they're trying to stick around,
Yeah.
you know? And so what they're finding at Wiley Metal with that reduction in turnover is more than just retention. They're finding teams are happier,
Yeah.
morale is up,
Yeah.
people are caring about each other more.
What?
Right. What else? Safety's up.
Mhm.
Why? Because you don't have a bunch of new people. I mean, they're
Cutting
in
their fingers off.
manufacturing, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And so if you have a lot of turnover, that's an issue.
Yeah.
It's a safety issue. Turnover is a safety issue.
Correct.
And so so they're seeing better safety. There's all types of rewards that come out of having retention. And so to your point, what's happening now is that people are being valued, not just because the one person is the one MVP that gets the trophy, but they're looking at how do we value everybody's contribution, because culture is not the one person. Culture's not on LeBron. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like culture is the entire team. And so you know, a lot of times with the MVP, we think about the one person, but we're saying most valuable people. The most valuable people are the ones that are the people that know meaning, that are actually valued within the organization, recognized for good work. How do I know that my contribution is meaningful if you never tell me?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If it's always guesswork.
Yeah.
And so we want to take the guesswork out of good work.
Yeah. That's good.
So that people know how to
Right.
contribute in ways that are meaningful.
Yeah.
You know? But
Yeah, I think about it in a sense as well, where when you have that value, you feel like you're valued
Yeah.
by your leaders, and not just your leaders. I would say this: it means more to me that my peers, you respect me, and I think that was one of the things I was hearing from the guys. You know, we had a welder that was part of the cohort, and he was talking about it's not that we don't love our bosses when he come around, but I can say the same thing, and I think it'll mean more. It will,
oh yeah.
right? When you have that respect from your peers and that value, your words are impactful. So the same thing is, it's kind of like having that kid that always listens to aunt and uncle,
Yeah.
and y'all are saying the same thing. Mom and dad says the same thing, but hey, let's take them over aunt and uncle's house, because for whatever reason, coming out somebody else's mouth means a little bit more. Right. And so it's just that connection. Yeah. It's a different connection in a field. And I think when that person has that value to where they're impacting their peers, I always like to find those people. I always call them the thermostats in the company. Like everybody has those thermostats that are setting temperatures in every department that kind of controls the atmosphere. If that person is happy and laughing, everybody's happy and laughing. If that person is not here that day, you can kind of see the mood different, because that person sets the temperature. When that person is frustrated, you can see that the atmosphere is a little bit different, right? Because of that person kind of rules that area. That body language is controlled.
That does happen. Atmosphere. I'm not sure how to avoid that, because a lot of times teams do take on the personality of one person. Yeah. Normally the manager or the organization takes on the personality of its CEO. Yeah. I'm not really sure how to avoid. I don't think.
Well, how you do it is that you make sure that person becomes the champion
and
that
knows how to lead.
You grow, you develop and grow them, and because they have a gift. Yeah. I think people that can control the atmosphere, whether positively or negatively, it's a gift. It's something about you that if it's done in the right sense, man, it changes, it impacts life, it impacts the culture.
I'm just over here thinking how crazy it is.
Sometimes it's scary. I'll be honest, if you go back and ask Kathy McNamee, go find her, she'll tell you, when I was happy and laughing, man, it was a great time. But if I was not happy, like I was a piss poor type of person to be around.
Yeah.
It just wasn't,
I just think how crazy it is that I mean, culture is very impressionable in that sense, that if you have a leader that has emotional instability, then you have a culture that has instability.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you have a boss or a manager that's emotionally unstable or emotionally immature or doesn't have any emotional intelligence at all, that has such a profound impact on the culture, man.
Yeah.
To your
Yeah.
point, you know, because
Yes,
culture,
everybody, he is saying that I was emotionally unstable, and that was true.
no, not no, not
Oh, I was.
I'm thinking
I had no
companies.
I had no EI.
I'm thinking companies now.
But
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like the idea of that is, and even to myself when I was a pastor leading a church, the areas where I was emotionally immature, whatever it was, has an impact on the organization, you
Yeah.
know. And I just, yeah, we're kind of getting off topic, but I think
No,
it's
it's on topic.
I think it's really important that we recognize that within a context of like growing a team, that we do have that type of influence by the example that we set. But that also doesn't mean that we come to work every day and all we can be is happy-go-lucky and
Yeah.
cheerful and not vulnerable and real.
Yeah.
I think what people are hungry for is not Joel Osteen every day.
Yeah.
That's fine. And if all you can do is smile, great. I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
But I think most people just want that. I'm not saying he's not real. I'm saying like most people want you to just be real.
Yeah.
But being real and being authentic should also be aligned with you as a leader being emotionally mature.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Craig Groeschel has a quote. He on his podcast, and I think he says it every time he opens. But people don't want to follow leaders that are always right.
Yeah.
People want to follow leaders that are always real.
Yeah.
And that's just authentically you. There's no perfect person. We would say perfect-ish all the time.
Yeah.
But we want people want to follow people. I think the word that we're looking for when it comes to value, bringing it back to what we're talking about on the value piece, and then just in general, is consistency.
Yeah.
Be consistently you.
Yeah.
And authentically, and transparent, right? To where, hey, we all go through some things.
Yeah.
Right. Positive. Sometimes we pray that there's more good than bad.
Right.
But sometimes storms last a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But not being afraid to show that.
Yeah.
Is important.
Yeah. I think people want real leadership.
Yeah. Real leadership.
Yeah.
You have a segment, and I don't know if you want to. If this be a perfect time to kind of.
Let's take
a break before we get to the P.
All right. So this is
not literally P, but the P and MVP.
The P and MVP. All right. This is the craziest shit in HR, brought to you by the Culture of Good. All right. So this I sent to you several weeks ago. Woman in shock. This is the headline here. Okay.
This is the actual article.
This is a real article
published that he's reading.
Woman in shock when she woke up to her boss at the end of her bed after calling in sick. Do you need the rest of the story?
I mean, I would like a little bit more information, but this is where, I mean, even with that title, you go ahead and do a little story time.
Well, here's a couple more headlines within the article.
Yeah.
A woman was in for a rude shock when she called off work because of a stomach bug just for her boss to show up at her bedside. He thought that she didn't want to drive in, and he offered to drive her so she could still work.
So there's a lot of details that go on this, because I'm thinking, number one, that is a caring boss to show up at your house.
That's right.
But
maybe caring too much.
There's something to the story. How did he get in the house?
Okay, so she had a roommate that smoked apparently and left the door ajar, and so
he was worried somebody broke in.
No, the boss just decided apparently that the door was cracked open, and he thought, I should just go in.
Wellness check.
I suppose so. She woke up sick in bed, and he's standing. I mean, there's a part of me that wants to laugh. The other part of me is in absolute shock, and it's very disturbing.
Yeah.
But this is some crazy shit in HR, because I can't imagine a call to HR that afternoon.
Yeah, especially, yeah. I mean, so I didn't realize that the door was open and all that. I thought he had a key to the house, so there had to be some type of friendship or relationship there that he felt comfortable going inside. But you're saying the door was open
and just walked right in.
That's almost a come on man moment as well.
And offered her
common
ride
sense
to work. Yeah.
Like I would knock.
Yeah.
I would probably be, me in all genuine, being genuine, if the door's open, then I'm worried. like, did something happen, or did she forget did she go to work?
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking the other thing, hey, is she in work because her door's cracked open, or I'm looking around the outside to see if she may be walking her cat or her dog, or flying the bird outside.
Yeah, he just was standing at the foot of the bed waving and saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
I know that you called out, but or called off work, but maybe you just don't want to drive, and I'll drive you in, and you could still work." So that's yeah,
That I would find it hard to go back to work as an
yeah.
employee.
Well, that was the end of that employment. Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
I would have to quit, but I also like,
Oh, I would be rich.
yeah.
Yeah,
Who are
Yeah.
you to show up in my house? One, who are you to show up in my house? Two, who do you show up in my room? Three,
right.
how did you walk out of this room,
Waving.
out of this house?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Anyway.
If somebody showed up at my daughter or wife or sister, cousin, any female,
Yeah.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen out there, male bosses or female bosses,
Yeah. Anybody
don't
just
show up
stay
at
out of
somebody's house
people's
if they
house.
call out.
Stay out
If you have trust, that's a trust issue factor.
well, yeah. No
When you
shit.
showed up at the house, like, yeah,
I would think so.
over 8 million people called in the
there's-
day after the
yeah.
Super Bowl.
I mean, that's not just a trust issue. That's illegal.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's trespassing. Yeah.
antitrust
So
problems. So
M is meaning, V is valued, right? Valued people within, and then P is what?
purpose. We talked about this a lot,
Uh-huh.
and when we talk about meaning earlier, we talked about purposeful work.
Yeah.
And how that aligns. When I think about purpose here, is that sense of direction. I said declaration. It's that sense of direction, right?
Uh-huh.
That then connects to that fulfillment, right? So we always talk about who are you, where are you going, right? Those are questions like the identity and then the sense of direction on where you're going as an individual. I think as a company, we understand what we do, which is, hey, this is where the company is headed. But when we talk about having meaningful work, when we talk about bringing culture good into your workplace, it's giving individuals a sense of direction, in the sense where they get to control those things and have a sense of purpose on where they are going that connects to their why.
Yeah.
Individually.
Yeah. And that gives them a sense of meaning.
Yeah.
Meaning has to do with what the hope is.
Yeah.
I think purpose has to do with what the function is.
Yeah.
A lot of times we think of purpose being the same thing, very interchangeable with meaning. Like, I have this sense of purpose, like this I think that's the sense of meaning. The purpose is like, what's the purpose of this pen? The purpose of this pen is to write with. It's not, I mean, that's why the pen was designed the way that it is, right? It's a pen. When we think about purpose and we think about, immediately I go back to like, what is my role here? What is my contribution based on my role? What, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's baked into what I do in terms of my function? Because when I can function the way that where I find meaning, then I find fulfillment. It's the function of my work with a sense of meaning. That's purpose. You know what I'm saying? It's what is my purpose? It's like, what is my function?
Yeah.
And when my function or what my responsibilities and my role within a workplace doesn't align with my values, then then I have internal conflict, and that's going to impact my retention, because I'm not going to stick around in a place where my daily function doesn't align with my values or with where I find meaning. Right. So I think of purpose very much. Most of the time, I've always tied it directly just to like the sense of meaning. But as you were talking about purpose in this context, I immediately went to people need to feel that what they do every single day is tied to that why. The meaning is the why, the purpose is the what. What is my purpose? What's the mission?
Yeah.
And what's my purpose in the mission? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where are we headed? What's the direction?
Yeah.
Right? What's the direction, and where am I sitting on this bus? Or where am I supposed to be within this team? What position am I playing? We talk about it all the time with
Yeah.
purpose and position, right?
Yep.
If you don't know the position that you're playing on a team, it's going to be really hard to know the purpose.
Yeah.
So I think of it more in the sense of function. It's like your MVPs are the ones that really find fulfillment in what they do every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think of it when I think of the MVP on most teams and scenarios. And what I loved a few years ago, Golden State won their first championship. The MVP was not the best player necessarily on the team.
Right.
It wasn't Steph Curry. It wasn't Klay Thompson. Right.
Yeah.
It was Andre Iguodala who it was kind of beginnings. He was like at the peak going towards the latter part of his career. You know, I think he played another 5 or 6 years after that. If I'm not mistaken. But I think about the impact that those MVPs, these champions that are leaving, and my hope is that they become MVPs of their organization.
Yeah.
Where they become valuable people.
Yeah.
With valuable purpose, right? Taking their valuable potential. I'm on a roll here. You saying this? But they take that, right, and they're able to not just live it. And I think one of the greatest impacts we see with all our champions is that they don't just keep it; they truly share it.
Yeah.
Right, where it spreads, where there's others. You know what we see with Mike Wilder, we see it all the time. Think about in your beginning days with companies with Ingram Micro and the work that you did there, the connection that's still continuing with, then the relationships that still continue. Where now you got people that went from Ingram Micro to other companies,
Alex,
and Alex,
RC,
and it's different places. That value that is still an ongoing thing, because as you become a champion of your culture at your workplace. It's how now do I take this back to my team members to help them develop a new skill, to help them develop and feel like they can contribute to this greater purpose, right? That they can contribute more to this team project, but this project and how it impacts other things, right? And so when I think about all our champions that have just thrived at it, I think about the impact that they're not just making to champion the culture, but I think about the impact they do to make other people better around them.
Yep.
And that's the good, right? We can do good in the community, and that's part of the big good. That's part of the algorithm. So that's part of the good that we want them to do. But I think the greater good at every MVP on any team that I've seen is how they made and impacted those around them to be better.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, when I walked away last week, and this has just been on my heart, and I wanted to talk about that today, because when you're an MVP, when you're a champion, that MVP has made the team better, made the coaches better, the bosses better, right? And obviously, if you're a champion, it's also going to make the finances better, right? There's an outcome of bringing culture good in your work. And I wanted to share that message behind the MVP mindset, because it's been on my mind ever since, thinking about the impact that these champions are making, and also encourage everybody that's watching us to, hey, it doesn't have to be Ryan and George coming into your office, but it should be Ryan and George coming into your office. It doesn't have to have a certain thing that looks a certain, it doesn't have to be our way, it doesn't have to be TCC way, because the whole culture of good is designed for your company specific. It's your company's way, your language. We give you the strategies that are adaptable to be able to take that playbook and work the playbook and coach your people up and develop them to bring good. And so I appreciate you allowing us to have this conversation. It's a little bit different than we normally have, but I'm really excited about what is to come. I'm excited about the stories. And hey, listen, if you're listening today, I want to encourage you to align, to create a strategy for your culture. If you don't have a culture strategy, there's no greater time than today to start thinking about, what does that look like? What does it mean? How do I begin to start that? And we can give you, if you listen to our podcast, go back to previous episodes. We give all this content across our podcast all the time on how you can do it. But if you're looking to specifically get the structure,
you need to come and be a part of June 25th and 26th. We're going to be here. That's a 2-day. That's a great place to start.
Right.
Great. That's a great, like, let's kick this thing off. You know, we gotta start somewhere. So those 2 days are a great place to start. And it's It's good stuff, man.
Awesome. Hey, I want to give a couple of shout outs to our YouTube. I don't know if you knew this, but YouTube channel, Culture Good YouTube channel has grown another plus 500 in the last 2 weeks.
Nice.
So I was looking at that. We got that email. So we appreciate everybody for continuing, and our Spotify listeners, Apple, wherever you listen to, we appreciate the support. Keep on sharing. Every time you share, every time you like, it helps us reach more people in the community. And we want to get this message out. We don't do this for any funds. We don't get paid to do this. We just do this because it's pretty good to have an hour to really share what's really on our hearts and give it back to the community. And so this is our way of giving it back. But we do appreciate those who have supported us, who've ever liked and rated or subscribed or shared it to their network. To those who are watching or riding right now in your cars, be safe.
Yes.
But we appreciate you allowing us to bring our soul to work to do what we do today.
Yep. And as always, we love you, and we'll see you back here next week on
Champion Your Culture.
Thank you for tuning in to Champion Your Culture. We hope today's episode has sparked new ideas and inspiration for your journey in leadership and cultural development.
Building a culture good is a collective effort. If you found value in conversations today, please subscribe to our podcast. Follow us on your favorite platform and share this episode with your friends and colleagues.
Your support helps us reach more people and spread the message of impactful leadership and positive cultural change. Don't forget to visit cultureofgood.com to explore how you can become a certified culture champion.
Every week, we're here to bring you insights and strategies that matter. So join us again for more empowering discussions. Let's continue to champion a culture of purpose and passion together.
Until next time, keep leading with heart, and let's make a positive difference in the world. And we'll see you next week on Champion Your Culture.